this series, the mini series, I'm taking one per game. So last week I did SWAT Force, this week I'm doing Trap Team, and I'm taking a Skyline that either means a lot to me or definitely means a lot to you guys because a very long time subscriber on my channel and one who's been improving every single day, and I'm so proud of him. Crypt Crusher, this one's for you. Crypt King is his favorite Skylander, if it isn't obvious by his thumbnail and the fact that he loves Crypt Crusher, and he commented on every single trap block saying Crypt King's still alive. That's all that matters. So this one's for you, Crypt Crusher, along with anybody out there who loves Crypt King. I'm excited to play.
Will Crush? How about I return the favor? There's nothing like a good old bit of bash. This is because he's a very iconic Skylander that looks really cool and is very memorable. An interesting fact that you may have not known about Bash is that he's the first ever unique Skylander to be created. And back then his name was simply just Rock Dragon, which is kinda weird considering that he is a dinosaur. And also, just as a bonus, Crash loves Bash. Maybe it's cause their names rhyme, I never really asked him. So I guess this basically video is kind of dedicated to Crash, so go and subscribe to him if you haven't already. Okay, let's get things started by talking about Bash's backstory. Basically, when Bash was younger, he was always jealous of the dragons that got to fly in the sky. And why was he jealous? Because this loser has no wings. He tried many things to allow himself to join the other dragons, but sadly, he had no luck. Literally, check out his stats, he has no luck. But we'll get onto that in a minute. Unfortunately, after all of his attempts, he still came out of it with no wings and no way to fly. But throughout his training, Bash learned some incredible powers, including the fact that his skin turned to solid rock. Honestly, if I were you, Bash, I would drop all this flying nonsense and just be grateful for your new powers. Well, that was pretty interesting. But there's a couple of problems with this backstory that I don't really understand. First of all, Bash is a species of flightless dinosaur. Why on earth would he think that somehow he'd be able to develop wings and fly? And that kinda leads into my second problem as well. For some reason, the writer of this biography kept on saying dragon instead of dinosaur. Like, come on guys, you should know your own Skylanders. But apart from that, it's a pretty cool backstory. I mean, it doesn't really tell us that much about Bash, like who he is or where he comes from, but that's fine by me. Oh, so you guys want to know who is the Earth Dragon if it's not Bash? Well, that's easy, it's obviously Dinorang. Let's be real here, Bash's stats aren't that surprising. He's got incredible strength and incredible armour, due to the rock skin and the giant metal ball on his tail. And the speed is a bit of a weird one, because yes, whilst he's just walking, Bash is quite slow, but when you start rolling up into a ball, you start to go a lot faster. So honestly, this isn't even that bad. And Bash doesn't have that much luck, and as I've said in a previous video, luck isn't very important for the stats, and this is actually a really good thing because it means that the other stats are higher instead of the luck stat being high. In fact, his stats are so good that I'm starting to think that he might be the best Skylander in SSA. Now of course, stats aren't everything, so now let's take a look at his attacks, his upgrades, his upgrade paths, his soul gem, and his wow pow. When he's not rolling, Bash is pretty slow, but luckily he's got a really strong first attack that makes up for that. Basically, you swing your tail all around you, which means that you can hit multiple enemies at once, and honestly, this does some pretty decent damage. It does leave you vulnerable though, so make sure you plan your attack before you do it. And then of course you have your second attack, which is the roll. This is very useful, especially when you're trying to get from place to place quickly, but you can also damage enemies pretty easily with this. This is especially useful for dodging enemy attacks after you've done a tail swipe. Now let's get on to Bash's upgrades, starting with Tennis Tail, which is one of the coolest upgrades I've ever seen. Basically what this does is when you use your tail swipe on a projectile, it'll return to the person that attacked you with it. As you can see here, it's really fun to do, but you have to get the timing just right or else you'll still get hit. The upgrade after that simply just makes your tail swipe stronger, which I'm completely fine with. But then the next upgrade unlocks your third attack, which is called Stone Projection. It basically allows you to summon a giant rock that can damage enemies when it's coming through the ground, and then you can tail swipe it to shoot it at enemies. Honestly, at the moment, this attack isn't really that good, and I didn't find myself using it until I got an upgrade to make it better. And then the last upgrade before the two split paths allows you to roll for twice as long, which makes zooming around a lot more fun. Okay, so far so good, but now we are on to the split upgrade paths. And today, as always, I'm going to start with the top upgrade path, which focuses mainly on your tail swipe. Bash must be OP now, because his first upgrade makes his tail swipe even stronger. And then the middle upgrade makes your stone projection stronger, which I was desperate to get, especially after how disappointed I was with it when I first got it. But now that it's actually strong and usable, I'll tell you how to use this attack properly. First of all, it's all about positioning, because the third attack has two different uses. If there's an enemy right in front of you, then it's the perfect time to use this attack. And then after that, when your enemy is begging for mercy, you can go ahead and tail swipe the stone to shoot a giant rock at them as well. This can also be helpful for knocking enemies back if they're about to attack you. And the final upgrade is definitely the coolest. Now if you charge your tail swipe, you'll do an even more powerful attack, and trust me, this one is really good. This move is really strong and knocks enemies back, but it does take a while to charge, so you have to be extra careful when using this one. And that's us done with the top upgrade path. Honestly, it is pretty useful, but I wish the upgrades were a little bit more interesting and unique. But now let's move on to the bottom upgrade path, which focuses on Bash's rolling move, and then we'll finally decide which of the upgrade paths is better overall. The first upgrade for the bottom path allows Bash's roll to do more damage, and then the second upgrade allows Bash's roll to do more damage. But it also comes with an extra little something special on the side, and that's the ability to now roll through enemy attacks. Except you can't. I tested this out quite a few times, and literally none of my attempts actually worked. You cannot roll into an enemy attack without being hurt, and it's just kinda dumb. And then guess what? Bash's final upgrade for this path makes his roll do more damage. How incredible is that? It also makes it faster as well, which I suppose is kind of helpful, but overall this path is just so lackluster. I mean, sure, if you're a fan of the rule, then this is the path for you, but overall, I just can't see this path being any better than the top one. The only real use I can see this path having is Bash's speed. When he's rolling, he does go quite a decent pace, which can be great for completing levels quickly and whatnot, but honestly, if you want my personal opinion, definitely go for the top path, because not only is the top path more interesting and unique, but honestly, without the top path, Bash just isn't anywhere near as good. Basically, if you choose the bottom path, you'll have a very quick and strong roll attack, and then a really bad third attack, and a pretty lame first attack. You just have to get your priorities straight. Which is why I definitely recommend you use the top path for Bash. I'm going to get into quite a lot of trouble if Crash prefers the bottom path, so let's just hope that that isn't the case. Anyway, with all of that out the way, let's move on to Bash's Soul Gem. Bash's Soul Gem isn't your normal Soul Gem. He doesn't really unlock a new attack or a brand new move or ability. Instead, he gets some really cool armor for his head. And in favour, this increases his armor even more, and we've already established that he's probably one of the toughest Skylanders out there, so this just makes him even better. Also, the armor is really cool. And one more thing, if you still think that he's a dragon after all of this, the armor is literally Triceratops horns. Triceratopses are dinosaurs. Yeah, I rest my case. But it's not quite over yet. We've got one more thing to talk about, and that is his Wow Pow. For Bash's Wow Pow, you simply just have to press the second button whilst rolling, and then you jump up into the air and slam down and create a massive shockwave. And what I love even more about this WoW Pal is the fact that it makes your roll good even if you didn't pick the bottom path, which gives you so much more reason to pick the top one instead. Well, there you go, we've covered all of the attacks, upgrades, soul gems and WoW Pals. So now comes the big question, is Bash good? And my answer is, depends. If you pick the bottom path, I'm not sure if I would even consider Bash a good Skylander, but luckily the top path is a lot better. I would give Bash a 7.5 out of 10, because whilst he is slow, he's a heavy hitter, and his attacks and moveset are just really memorable and very classic to this day. I do wish his upgrades were a little bit more interesting, because a lot of the time it's just making your already used attacks stronger. But I definitely recommend that you try and get Bash if you haven't already. He is very fun to play with. Well, there we have it guys. That was Bash basically. I hope it helped you, and maybe you learnt a thing or two about Bash, like how he's actually a dinosaur and not a dragon. But anyways, make sure to like the video if you enjoyed, and maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Tell me what you think about Bash in the comments down below, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.
I see you found my shrine. Don't be afraid. There's no reason to. It's alarming, I know, but you should know why this exists. I shall tell you.